Hi out there all you makers and creatives. I'm Amy. I'm a calligrapher, a painter, and a business owner. And on this channel we talk about how your creative gift has value. In this video we're going to be talking about some of the things you should consider when you're thinking about doing an art show or craft fair, signing up for something where you'll have a booth and be selling to the public. So there's several things for you to think about, and we're just going to suggest some things and open some dialogue about what you should be looking for in a show like that when you're choosing. I'm also going to show some video that I filmed recently at a show in Dallas called Freestyle. It was a fun show to go to a few weeks ago, and I'll be just showing some video from that as examples, and just so you can see what that show looks like if it's one of the ones that you might be considering showing at. I recently posted a video that was filmed at the Fort Worth Main Street Arts Festival on a sunny day, and it discussed some of the challenges associated with showing at an outdoor art fair or festival. They had rain the next day, but the day we were there was nice, and so that video talks specifically about outdoor shows and fairs. I'll link to that below if you want to check it out. All right, so let's dive in. One of the first things to look at, is it an indoor or an outdoor show? What are you willing to do and able to do, and what's the weather likely to be, and how is that going to affect your business or your ability to connect with customers? The next thing to think about is whether you have to bring your own booth, whether it's something that's set up for you or provided for you. In my video at Fort Worth Main Street Arts Festival, you can see that they set up the tents for you, and so it probably costs a little more, but that's taken care of and you don't have to bring those things and set them up and take them down. Set up your own booth, which is how most shows are, then you need to make sure that you have what you're going to need to exhibit your stuff well, and that it's going to work in the space that's given at this show. Find out all you can about the show, what the venue looks like, how big the aisles are, what the inside space looks like, what the loading and unloading situation is, and how you'll be allowed to handle that. That makes a big difference in how difficult it is to get the show set up and taken down, and how much time you have to allow for that. Another thing that you need to ask about or try and find out about is, what is this venue doing to attract customers? So what are they doing to advertise and to get people out for it? And then what are they doing once the show is going on? What are they doing to retain customers, to get people to stay there for a long time? Are they having entertainment? Are they having an area for children? Is it family friendly? Are they having a bar? Are fun food places to eat and things like that? The kinds of things that will get people to want to stay at an event and hang out there for a while. Because the longer they stay, the more likely they are to meet you and purchase things from you. So that's helpful to you. A question you should ask yourself while you're considering this is, what am I doing in my own booth to help attract people and retain people? So think about it in the same way. What's going to make somebody want to come into your booth when they're just walking down the aisle, kind of looking around? And then what are you going to do there that would make them stay or would make them feel like you're friendly or that they're making a connection with you? Is there some little thing you're going to give them, or some story you're going to tell, or some connection that you're going to make? Is there a place for them to take selfies, or is there, a question they can answer or a survey they can fill out that makes them feel like they've participated in something? So be thinking about what you can do personally, as well as what the venue's going to do to help attract and retain customers. Another question I think it's important to ask is, what is the buyer to exhibitor ratio typically at this particular show you're considering? Because some shows are huge shows, and some shows are small shows. But what matters is how many customers come per exhibitor. That's what's going to make a difference. So even if it's a small show, but you have a good amount of turnout for each exhibitor, then you can do really well. If it's a big show with a zillion, exhibitors and just a turnout that's not much bigger than that, then there's going to be so much for people to choose from and so much for them to see. And your booth is never going to feel very crowded with customers, that it may just feel like there's not a lot of action, and you may not see as much activity happening because the buyer ratio is just lower per exhibitor. And what that means is that the company that's throwing this fair or festival is making a lot of money by selling a whole lot of booths, but they're not doing their part to bring in enough customers to have really enough customers for every booth that's there. So that's a show that may not be the top of your list. Another thing that's worth finding out if you can, from talking to other people, from Googling comments or anything you can find out about this particular show, is How difficult is it to get there? How easy is the parking? Is it expensive to park, or is it hassle-free? What kinds of things are going to make it more likely that more customers are going to turn out, as opposed to them being frustrated or not being able to find a place to park and feeling like they kind of got ripped off because they had to pay to park and then pay to get in? You need to find out what their experience is going to be from the beginning to help you know whether it's going to be worth it to them and whether you're going to have happy customers coming in. You also need to know for your situation, what's the parking going to be like? If you have a truck or a trailer with your equipment in it and your merchandise, how hard is it going to be to get to? If you have some kind of special display like a little Airstream trailer that you sell out of, are you going to be able to get it in and set it up, and how easy is that going to be to do? So those are the kinds of things you really want to find out about that will help you set up the show easier and have a better chance of making it work well. Another thing, of course, you want to look at is what is the weather likely to be at that time. Now, you have to sign up for these shows usually so far in advance, but at least in the part of the country that it is and the time of year that it is, what's typical for that time of year? Are you likely to have decent weather? Because at an outdoor show, of course, that's critical to how well you're going to do. And it's just a risk. It's a chance you take. Sometimes you do well and sometimes you don't, like any gamble. But even at an indoor show, the way the weather is at the time will make a difference kind of in how many people come out and how people feel about shopping and going out and doing things. So bad weather always kind of slows things down, and the more that you can try and have a place that has good weather during the time of year when people are going to enjoy going out and shopping, the better off you're going to be. Another question I would ask about a venue is, am I likely to have problems with cell phone service or internet service, and what is the situation there with connectivity? Because that can make a difference when you're trying to take payments and when you're trying to do all the things that we need to do in order to sell. So it doesn't mean that a show's not going to be any good that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere or in a field or something, but you need to kind of know what the situation is and have an idea, and then have a backup plan for what you're going to do if you have some kind of technical problems during the show, so that you can still make a go of it and make some money at the show. One more thing I like to find out is the group that is throwing the show, that is holding the show, are they doing a lot to have loyal customers and engaged fans? Is this a kind of group that has people who really like them on social media and follow them and have an engaged following? The more engaged their following is, the more likely they are to turn out for a show no matter what the weather is, and to go to shows season after season and to keep coming back. And those are the kinds of places where you can forge relationships and get to meet customers and create recurring customers. If they're already a fan of the show, the people who are creating the show, then they're more likely to become a fan of yours as well. Fleestyle is a great example of this. They do a really great job with connecting in social media and having fans who feel a real connection to the brand itself. And so if you can find a show like that, then that helps you to connect your brand to someone who is good at promoting their brand and has people who feel like they're a part of that brand and like they really identify with it. And of course, a major consideration is just, what is the cost to exhibit at this show, and is that something I can afford right now? You know, you can start small when you're starting off doing shows, and it's really better too, because if you spend so much money investing in a space at a show, you can blow everything you have on the fee, and even if you do have sales, you end up with just a net zero. You don't make anything. And worse yet, if you don't have a lot of sales, then you're in the hole right from the beginning. So it's kind of better to start small. There's a lot to learn when you're doing these shows, and every time you do one, you'll get better. So start where you are. Consider whether this one is at a level that is right for you, where you are right now, and if you'll be able to manage the amount of traffic you're likely to have, the amount of sales you may have. Start with something that you think is manageable. Don't spend a fortune on a show when you're not ready yet, and then you can work your way up. It's a better way to work into making money and to learn what you're doing so that your customers will be happy instead of frustrated. Okay, those are some tips when you're considering a show for what you should be looking for. And if you do a show, I'd love to hear in the comments below which shows you do and what you like about them. Love to hear some of that. And I just wish you the best in selling your work and exhibiting your work. And I would love to hear from you and encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Thanks a lot, and keep doing your art.